Barron Trump's reaction to a black girl asking for a job will leave you speechless. The luxurious Trump Enterprises office tower gleamed in the morning sun, its glass walls reflecting the bustling city below. Inside, everything seemed to run like clockwork. Employees hustled, phones rang, and deals worth millions were being closed every hour. Among all this, Barron Trump had recently taken over a special division focused on innovation and entrepreneurship. Though young, his sharp mind and natural ability to lead had earned him a reputation as a rising star in the business world. It was another busy day in the office when something unexpected happened. The automatic glass door slid open, and a young girl no older than 18 cautiously stepped into the vast marble lobby. Her dark braids framed her determined face, and she clutched a simple folder in her hands. The receptionist glanced up briefly and arched an eyebrow. "Can I help you?" the receptionist asked, her tone polite but distant. "Yes," the girl said, trying to mask the nerves in her voice. "I'm here to apply for a job. I heard there might be some openings." The receptionist studied her for a moment, clearly unimpressed. "Do you have an appointment?" "No," the girl admitted. "But I thought maybe—" Before she could finish, a suited executive passing by smirked. "This isn't a charity, kid," he said with a chuckle. "We only hire the best here." The receptionist shook her head, signaling toward the door. "I'm afraid you'll have to leave." The girl's eyes filled with disappointment, but she refused to let her dream be crushed so easily. "Please," she said firmly. "I'm willing to work hard. I can learn anything you need me to. Just give me a chance." The commotion caught Barron Trump's attention from across the room. He had been reviewing documents with his assistant when he noticed the scene unfolding near the entrance. Curiosity piqued, he rose from his chair and strode toward them. "Is there a problem here?" Barron's calm but commanding voice cut through the tension. The receptionist straightened immediately. "Oh, no problem at all, Mr. Trump. This young lady was just leaving." Barron's eyes shifted to the girl. "Is that true?" he asked gently. The girl held his gaze, her determination shining through despite the odds stacked against her. "I came here to ask for a job, sir," she said confidently. "I don't have much experience, but I'm willing to give everything I've got." For a moment, there was silence. The surrounding employees watched, expecting Barron to dismiss her just like everyone else had. But what he said next left everyone speechless. Barron's sharp blue eyes scanned the girl for a moment, assessing not just her words but her resilience and courage. Most people would have backed down after the first rejection, but not her. He could see the fire in her determination, a quality he admired. "What's your name?" Barron asked, his voice calm yet commanding. The girl straightened her posture. "Tasha, sir. Tasha Brown." "And what kind of job are you looking for, Tasha?" he continued, his expression unreadable. "Anything, sir. I just need an opportunity," she replied with unwavering resolve. "I'll do whatever it takes." A slow smile tugged at the corners of Barron's mouth. "Follow me," he said, turning on his heel without waiting for an answer. The employees around them exchanged shocked glances as Tasha hurried to keep up with him. The executive who had mocked her earlier crossed his arms, watching in disbelief. "This is going to be interesting," he muttered under his breath. Barron led Tasha into a sleek conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. He gestured for her to sit at the long mahogany table. "Tell me about yourself," he said as he leaned back in his chair. "Why are you here, and what makes you think you belong at Trump Enterprises?" Tasha took a deep breath. This was her moment, her one shot. "I grew up in the Bronx," she began. "My mom works 2 jobs just to keep food on the table. I've always dreamed of working in business, but most places won't even look at me because I don't have experience or fancy connections. But what I do have is grit, determination, and a willingness to learn. Give me a chance, and I'll prove that I can be an asset to your company." Barron listened carefully, nodding as she spoke. He admired her honesty and her drive. There was something raw and real about her that stood out from the polished resumes and rehearsed speeches he was used to hearing. "Do you know what we do here, Tasha?" he asked. "I know you work with technology and innovation," she said, a flicker of doubt crossing her face. "I've read articles about your projects. I might not know everything, but I'm a fast learner." Barron chuckled softly. That's a good start. He leaned forward, his tone serious now. You remind me of someone I used to know. Someone who didn't have all the right connections or experience but had an unstoppable will to succeed. That person turned out to be one of the most valuable members of my team. Tasha's eyes lit up with hope. I'm going to give you a trial run, Barron said. 1 month. You'll work closely with my assistant, learn the ropes, and show me what you're capable of. If you prove yourself, there will be a permanent position waiting for you. Tasha could hardly believe her ears. Thank you, Mr. Trump. I won't let you down. I'm counting on that, Barron replied, extending his hand. Welcome aboard, Tasha. The news of Barron Trump's unexpected decision spread through the office like wildfire. Some employees were skeptical, while others admired his bold move. But one thing was certain, Tasha's arrival was about to shake things up. Her first week was anything but easy. She was thrown into a whirlwind of meetings, projects, and deadlines. Barron's assistant, a no-nonsense woman named Julia, pushed her to her limits, testing her skills and resilience at every turn. You'll need to be faster if you want to survive here, Julia said one afternoon as they reviewed a marketing proposal. I'm trying, Tasha replied, her eyes fixed on the computer screen. I'll get it right. Despite the pressure, Tasha refused to give up. She stayed late, learned from her mistakes, and slowly began to gain confidence. Barron watched her progress from a distance, impressed by her tenacity. One Friday afternoon, as the office buzzed with end-of-week energy, Barron called Tasha into his office. I've been keeping an eye on you, he said, folding his hands on his desk. And I have to say, you're doing well. Better than I expected. Thank you, sir, Tasha said, a smile spreading across her face. But the real test is coming, Barron continued. Next week, we have a major presentation with potential investors. I want you to be part of it. You'll present your research on market trends and help answer questions. Tasha's heart skipped a beat. This was a huge opportunity, but also a daunting challenge. I'll be ready, she promised. The days leading up to the presentation were some of the most intense Tasha had ever experienced. She poured all her energy into preparing, staying late at the office and double-checking every detail. Julia, who had initially seemed tough and distant, began to warm up to her, offering advice and encouragement. You've got this, Tasha, Julia said one evening as they wrapped up the final revisions. Barron sees something special in you, and so do I. Just be confident and trust yourself. Tasha nodded, taking a deep breath. Thanks, Julia. I won't let him down. On the morning of the presentation, the boardroom was filled with high-ranking executives and potential investors. The air was thick with anticipation as the meeting began. Barron sat at the head of the table, his expression calm and composed. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, addressing the room. Today, we'll be presenting our latest market strategy and projections. I'd like to introduce one of our team members, Tasha Brown, who has played a significant role in this research. She'll walk us through some key findings. All eyes turned to Tasha as she stood and made her way to the front of the room. Her palms were sweaty, and her heart pounded in her chest, but she pushed aside her nerves. Good morning, everyone, she began, her voice steady. Over the past few weeks, I've had the privilege of analyzing market data and identifying emerging trends that could greatly impact our future strategies. As she spoke, a few skeptical glances were exchanged among the executives. But Tasha remained composed, confidently presenting her findings and answering questions with precision and clarity. Barron watched her closely, a faint smile playing on his lips. She was holding her own, and more. Toward the end of the presentation, one of the investors leaned forward, his tone sharp. Miss Brown, these projections are ambitious. What makes you so certain they'll hold up in the real market? Tasha met his gaze without flinching. I understand your concern, she said. But the data we've gathered is comprehensive, and we've accounted for multiple scenarios. While no projection is guaranteed, we've taken every precaution to ensure accuracy. I'm confident in these results. There was a brief silence as the investor considered her response. Then he nodded. Fair enough. The presentation concluded with a round of applause. As the investors left the room, several of them stopped to shake Tasha's hand, praising her professionalism and insight. "You did it," Julia whispered as they walked back to the office. "You nailed it." Later that afternoon, Barron called Tasha into his office. "Close the door," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. Tasha sat down, her pulse quickening. "You were impressive today," Barron said, his tone serious. "You didn't just meet my expectations, you exceeded them. The investors were impressed, and that's no easy feat." "Thank you, sir," Tasha replied, her eyes shining with pride. Barron leaned back in his chair, studying her for a moment. "I've made my decision," he said. "The trial period is over. I'd like to offer you a permanent position here at Trump Enterprises." Tasha's jaw dropped. "Are you serious?" "Very serious," Barron said with a chuckle. "You've earned it." Tasha blinked back tears of joy. "Thank you, Mr. Trump. This means everything to me." Word of Tasha's success spread quickly through the company, and her story became an inspiration to many. Employees who had once doubted her began to respect her determination and work ethic. But not everyone was happy about her rise. The executive who had mocked her on her first day was seething with envy. He watched from the sidelines, plotting ways to undermine her newfound position. One afternoon, as Tasha was reviewing contracts, he approached her with a forced smile. "Congratulations on your promotion," he said. "You've really made an impression around here." "Thank you," Tasha replied, sensing something insincere in his tone. "You know," he continued, leaning in slightly, "the corporate world can be tricky. You've got to be careful who you trust." Tasha raised an eyebrow. "Is that advice or a warning?" He chuckled, but there was no warmth in his eyes. "Just something to keep in mind." Tasha stayed alert after her strange conversation with the jealous executive. She knew the corporate world wasn't always as welcoming as Barron had made it feel for her. Every success attracted envy, and it was clear someone didn't want her to rise any further. A few days later, as Tasha was walking through the office, she noticed her computer screen flashing with an error message. Important files were missing, files she had just finalized for a critical presentation. Her heart dropped. She frantically checked every folder but found nothing. "Julia," she called out, her voice trembling. Julia rushed to her side. "What's wrong?" "All my files, they're gone." The entire presentation, everything, vanished. Julia's eyes widened. "What? That's impossible. You backed everything up, right?" Tasha nodded. "Yes, but it's not even on the backup drive." A deep sense of dread settled over her. This wasn't an accident. Someone had deliberately deleted her work. Meanwhile, Barron was in a board meeting when he received a discreet text from Julia. It read, "Emergency, Tasha's files are missing. Possible sabotage." Barron excused himself immediately. He found Tasha and Julia in the IT department, trying to recover the files. "What happened?" Barron asked, his voice calm but commanding. Tasha explained everything, trying to keep her composure. "I don't know who did it, but someone erased all my work." Barron's jaw tightened. He turned to the head of IT. "I want an internal investigation. Pull security footage, track login records, whatever it takes. I want answers by the end of the day." The IT team sprang into action, scanning logs and reviewing camera footage. It didn't take long for the culprit to emerge, the very executive who had warned Tasha about trust. Later that afternoon, Barron called an emergency meeting. The guilty executive was summoned along with several department heads. "Tasha," Barron said, gesturing for her to stand beside him. "I want you to hear this." He turned to the executive. "We've reviewed the security footage and system logs. It's clear you accessed Tasha's files and deliberately deleted them." The executive's face paled. "Mr. Trump, Save it," Barron said coldly. "You not only sabotaged a colleague, you jeopardized an important project and betrayed the trust of this company. That's unacceptable." The executive tried to protest, but Barron raised a hand. "Your actions speak for themselves. You're fired. Security will escort you out." The room fell silent as two guards entered and led the disgraced executive away. Barron turned to Tasha, his voice softening. "I'm sorry you had to go through this. But know that I've got your back. Always." With the culprit exposed, Tasha felt a renewed sense of determination. She rebuilt her presentation from scratch, working late into the night. This time, she backed up everything in multiple places. When the day of the presentation finally arrived, Tasha was ready. She stood before a packed boardroom, her confidence unshaken. Her presentation was flawless, and the investors were beyond impressed. They approved the proposal unanimously, praising her for her resilience and dedication. As the meeting concluded, Barron smiled proudly. "I knew you could do it, Tasha." The weeks that followed brought new opportunities for Tasha. She continued to climb the corporate ladder, earning respect from everyone around her. One evening, Barron invited her to a charity gala hosted by the Trump family. Tasha hesitated at first. It felt like a world far removed from her own. But Barron reassured her. "You belong here," he said. "More than you realize." At the gala, Tasha mingled with business leaders and philanthropists, feeling more at home than she ever expected. Barron introduced her to several influential figures, proudly sharing her story of perseverance and success. "She's the future," Barron said with a smile. "And this company is lucky to have her." Tasha blushed, overwhelmed by his support. The night ended with Barron pulling her aside for a quiet conversation. "Tasha, I've been thinking," he began. "You've proven yourself time and time again. I'd like to offer you an executive position, Vice President of Strategy and Innovation." Tasha gasped. "Are you serious?" "Completely," Barron said. "You've earned it. This is just the beginning." Tasha felt tears welling up in her eyes. "Thank you, Barron. I won't let you down." "I know you won't," Barron replied, his eyes warm with pride. Tasha could hardly believe it. Vice President of Strategy and Innovation? Just a few months ago, she had walked into the Trump office nervously clutching her resume. Now, she was being offered one of the most prestigious roles in the entire organization. Her heart raced with excitement, but a small voice inside her whispered a warning. "This is a lot of responsibility. What if you fail?" She met Barron's steady gaze. There was no hesitation in his eyes, only confidence in her abilities. She took a deep breath and smiled. "I'm honored. I accept." Barron beamed. "Perfect. We'll announce it at the board meeting tomorrow." The next morning, the announcement sent a ripple through the company. While most of the staff celebrated Tasha's well-deserved promotion, a few skeptics whispered behind her back, questioning how quickly she had risen through the ranks. "She's only been here a few months," someone muttered. "She must have some kind of special connection," another added with a knowing smirk. But Tasha didn't let the whispers distract her. She threw herself into her new role, determined to prove that she had earned her place. Her first major project as vice president was a game changer, a comprehensive strategy to modernize the company's approach to sustainability. It wasn't just about improving the company's image. Tasha saw it as an opportunity to make a real difference. She gathered a team of the brightest minds in the company and worked tirelessly to develop innovative solutions. She implemented new energy-efficient processes, reduced waste, and partnered with cutting-edge tech companies to explore renewable energy sources. The board initially hesitated, wary of the potential costs, but Tasha's research was thorough and her passion was contagious. Barron stood by her side, supporting her vision every step of the way. Within months, the results were undeniable. The company's operations became more efficient, profits soared, and the public response was overwhelmingly positive. Major media outlets praised the company's forward-thinking approach, with headlines like, "Trump Enterprises leads the way in corporate sustainability." Tasha's success silenced her critics. Employees who once doubted her now looked up to her as a leader. Barron couldn't have been prouder. "You've transformed this company, Tasha," he told her during a late-night meeting. "The future is brighter because of you." Tasha smiled, feeling a surge of pride. "It's just the beginning." But just as everything seemed to be falling into place, a new challenge emerged, one that threatened to undo everything she had worked so hard to achieve. A powerful rival company, Redstone Industries, launched a smear campaign against Trump Enterprises, accusing them of falsifying sustainability data. The allegations were baseless, but the media frenzy was relentless. Reporters hounded the company, demanding answers. Social media exploded with outrage, and stock prices began to drop. Tasha knew she had to act fast. We need to address this head-on, she told Barron during an emergency meeting. If we stay silent, the narrative will spiral out of control. Barron nodded. Agreed. Let's hold a press conference. You should be the one to lead it. Tasha froze for a moment. The idea of speaking in front of dozens of reporters, facing tough questions, was intimidating. But she knew it was the right thing to do. I'll do it, she said, her voice steady. The press conference was held the next day in the company's grand atrium. Cameras flashed as Tasha stepped up to the podium, her heart pounding in her chest. Good afternoon, she began, her voice calm and confident. I'm here today to address the allegations against Trump Enterprises. Let me be clear, these accusations are entirely false. We have always prioritized transparency and integrity in our operations, and I have the data to prove it. She presented a detailed report, walking the press through every step of the company's sustainability initiatives. The reporters listened intently, their initial skepticism fading. When she finished, one reporter raised a hand. Ms. James, what do you say to those who believe you rose to this position too quickly? Tasha paused, meeting the reporter's gaze. I would say this: hard work and determination know no timeline. I've worked tirelessly to get where I am today, and I'm proud of what we've accomplished. I believe that every opportunity should be based on merit, and I'm here to prove that I belong. The room fell silent for a moment before erupting in applause. By the end of the day, the tide had turned. News outlets praised Tasha's courage and transparency, and public trust in the company was restored. Barron found her in her office later that evening. You were incredible, he said, handing her a glass of champagne. You handled that better than anyone could have. Tasha raised her glass, smiling. I couldn't have done it without your support. They clinked glasses, the tension of the past few days finally lifting. In the weeks that followed, Tasha's reputation continued to grow. Invitations poured in from industry conferences and panels, asking her to speak about her journey and the company's groundbreaking initiatives. Barron often accompanied her to these events, their bond growing stronger with each success. One evening, after a particularly inspiring panel discussion, Barron turned to Tasha. Have you ever thought about starting something of your own? Tasha blinked, surprised by the question. You mean my own company? Barron nodded. You have the vision, the leadership skills, and the passion. I think you're ready to take that step if you want it. Tasha sat in her office that evening, Barron's words echoing in her mind. Start something of my own? It was an idea she had once dreamed of, back when she was still figuring out her path. But after everything she'd built with Trump Enterprises, she wasn't sure if it was the right time. Her thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock at the door. Barron walked in, a warm smile on his face. Still thinking about it? Tasha sighed, leaning back in her chair. It's a big decision. It is, Barron agreed, sitting across from her. But you've already proven you're capable of transforming this company. Imagine what you could do with something that's entirely your vision. Tasha thought for a moment, then smiled. If I did start something, I'd want it to focus on education and sustainability. Helping young people from underserved communities gain access to education and training in green technologies. Barron's eyes lit up. That's brilliant. And I know just the right people to get it off the ground. A few weeks later, Tasha stood in front of a crowd of journalists and business leaders, announcing the launch of her new initiative, the Green Future Foundation. The organization would focus on providing scholarships, mentorship, and hands-on training in sustainability for students from underrepresented backgrounds. The response was overwhelmingly positive. Within days, major companies reached out, eager to partner with her foundation. Donations poured in from across the country. What had started as a dream was now becoming a movement. Tasha found herself busier than ever, traveling across the country to meet with community leaders and educators. Everywhere she went, she met young people brimming with potential, their eyes lighting up at the opportunities Green Future offered. One day, during a visit to a high school in Chicago, Tasha was approached by a shy student named Kayla. Ms. James, can I ask you something? Of course, Tasha said, smiling. I've always wanted to be an engineer, Kayla said. But sometimes I feel like it's not possible, like it's too big a dream. Tasha knelt down to meet her eyes. When I was your age, I felt the same way. But you know what? Big dreams are worth chasing. You can be an engineer. And if you ever need help, Green Future will be here for you. Kayla's face lit up. Thank you, Ms. James. I won't give up. As Kayla walked away, Tasha felt a surge of emotion. This is why I'm doing this, she thought. To make sure kids like Kayla have the chance to chase their dreams. Back in New York, Barron watched Tasha's growing success with pride. He had always believed in her, but seeing her impact firsthand was something else entirely. One evening, as they walked through Central Park after an event, Barron turned to her. Tasha, I've been meaning to tell you something. She raised an eyebrow. What's that? I'm proud of you. More than you'll ever know. Tasha smiled, her heart swelling. Thank you, Barron. That means the world to me. They walked in comfortable silence for a moment before Barron continued. There's something else. I've realized that I want to be part of your journey, not just as a friend or colleague. Tasha stopped, her breath catching in her throat. Barron, I'm serious, he said, his voice steady. You've changed my life, Tasha. And I don't want to imagine it without you. Tasha looked into his eyes, 1,000 emotions swirling in her chest. Barron, Before she could finish, a sudden flash of light interrupted them. A photographer had caught their moment, and within hours, the tabloids were buzzing with headlines about their relationship. The media frenzy was overwhelming at first, but Tasha and Barron decided to face it head-on. They didn't hide their relationship, and soon enough, the world moved on, focusing instead on their shared efforts to make a difference. Together, they became a powerful force for change. Tasha continued to expand Green Future, while Barron supported her every step of the way, using his influence to open doors and connect her with the right people. A year later, Green Future had grown into a nationwide movement, with programs in over 20 cities. Thousands of students had gained access to education and job opportunities they never thought possible. At the organization's first annual gala, Tasha stood on stage, looking out at the crowd of supporters, students, and business leaders. Barron stood by her side, his eyes filled with pride. None of this would have been possible without the belief and support of so many people, Tasha said, her voice steady. But most of all, it's the young people we serve who inspire us every day. They are the future, and I can't wait to see what they achieve. The crowd erupted in applause, and Tasha felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had found her purpose, and she knew she was exactly where she was meant to be. As the gala wound down, Tasha and Barron found a quiet corner to reflect. You've built something incredible, Barron said, taking her hand. And this is just the beginning. Tasha smiled, her heart full. I couldn't have done it without you. Barron leaned in, his voice soft. Here's to the future, together. They clinked glasses, the promise of endless possibilities ahead of them. And as they looked out at the sea of smiling faces, they knew they had only just begun to change the world.